Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk About It, the podcast. I'm your girl TJ. And obviously, if you're here, you know I prefer to be called TJ, but my name is Tjuana Yvonne. You heard that, Dion? Tjuana Yvonne. As difficult as that is. I hear Shatema over there mocking it and getting it right. Thank you so much. Today's podcast is another special episode. It's part 2 of the birthday bee. Hey, one
Leo.
time for the birthday bee.
Right.
So it is our birthday. We are both Leos. And so what we thought we would do for you guys is give you a little bit of in-depth about who we are behind the mics, a little bit of our personal lives, why we started the podcast. So thank you for so much for joining us, and get in here and buckle in. Before we dive into today's episode, you know I've got to introduce my co-host, the fabulous Shatema Gresham, the CEO of Procure Talent Management. How you doing, Shatema?
What up, TJ? I'm good. It's our birthday.
Hey, what's up? Birthday. I feel like I want to do a little song one
shimmy,
time for
little
it, right?
shimmy.
A little
I
song.
know.
And we got a
Shout out
special
to the
guest in
Leos.
here, right? I want you to introduce our girl who came and joined us today.
Miss Cookie, our four-legged host over there.
She heard you calling her.
Yeah, she did. She is busy.
Yes, Cookie's my little best friend. For the birthday this year, we are into a couple different things, but one of my theme songs is How You Look.
Oh, I like that.
Hey! I've been super
That
into
little glow I love.
right?
I know. I like her little self.
So let me be clear. We're really ain't talking about how she physically look, but at this stage in our life, Shatema, how we look arguing with people about childish things.
I don't even participate.
How we look fighting over shit that ain't got no merit to bringing us no money.
We not.
Hey!
How I look.
So this our theme song.
I like that little glow. She know I like her. Yes.
So
I
we
like
want to
her.
start this episode about talking about self-care. And
Yes,
right now
ma'am.
for my self-care, this is it. Like I'll pop in like how I look, arguing with people that ain't even on your level, right?
How you
so
look.
tell me what you do for self-care, Shatema.
Self-care comes in levels for sure. Particularly what I'm trying to focus on as part of my routine self-care, mental health, and all that good stuff is going back to that childlike play.
Ooh.
So I recently was told that I'm way too serious. And at first I was kind of like offended by it because, you know, we're Leos. I'm like, I'm so cool. Like, I'm super cool. And then when I gave it a little more thought, I'm like, you know what? They're telling the truth. That's true. Way too serious. But I feel like we're always in get it done mode. So getting in done mode for me is serious because it's usually tied to money. And so I want my money, so I'm going to get it done. And so one of the things that I'm really taking a more concentrated effort is going back to that childlike self-care.
I love that. I think in my work life, that was one of the things I got. I remember being hired at the aquarium and being told, it's a fun space, have fun. But my focus was where we are. We're a startup. All the things I have to get done.
Serious.
Right, serious. And so I didn't really have time for fun in that space. But at the same time, in my fun life, like
I've had fun.
It's turned up.
I agree. It doesn't happen nearly as much as I would like, but I feel like when we do turn up, we turn up.
Yeah,
like,
turn up.
And we're extra about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we are extra with where we're going, what we're doing, the company that we keep. But I started off this year, you know, the kids got out of school and I'm like, let's go do the California theme parks.
Yeah.
Like I said, a conscious effort of trying to find that childlike fun.
Yeah.
Of more laughing, more giggling, more being a little bit more lighthearted. And so that is really my focus, I think, going into this next run around the sun is play again.
I think the good thing about that is that level of innocence allows us to be so vulnerable.
Yeah.
your manifestations become deeper, or
Right.
your, connections with who you are become deeper, because it's not tainted.
Right.
When you're kids and you can just be delusional, if
Right.
you will.
They have no worries.
That's right. And your mind can be completely free and open, more open.
Yeah.
Right. And when we are so fixed on who we are and trying to check all the boxes, you gotta fit in a particular list.
Right.
And that makes it more difficult, in my opinion.
It is, and it's hard because, like I said, we went to California, we went to Newport Beach, and here I go, I have my book, I have my podcast, I have my playlist ready to go, and, they're running up and down the beach, they're getting in the pool, my little one's collecting shells, and I just want to read my little book. Like, I got my little book, I want to read my little book, don't really want to be bothered, and I had to tell myself, put the book away. Like, you're supposed to be having that childlike fun, not this relaxation or, like reading the book. You should be running on the beach. You should be putting your feet in the water. You need to, like, find that childlike play. And I had to tell myself, like, put your book away.
Okay.
Go, you got your bathing suit on. Go get the seashells. Go, play in the water. And I had to do that. But in self-reflecting, I laugh because I'm like, girl, maybe you are too serious. Like, maybe you are doing too much. This is not childlike play. Yes, you made it to the beach. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yes, you're not working. You don't have a laptop in tow. Congratulations. But you're still not playing.
It's okay. We don't get that freedom.
Yeah.
And for me, I had a struggle with leaving the plantation, if you will. Don't get offended, because every job is the plantation, in my opinion. Not one company, but every job. But leaving the plantation, I remember getting on Kendra G, and her first question is, "What do you do?" And I was like, I even said I was a life coach. I'm not a life coach, but for the most part, who we are is attached to the job we punch into. Mm-hmm. Yes. And in this new phase, I'm excited to say that's not who I am. I have so many layers of who TJ is, the struggles I've been through, the things that I can share. I am excited to be an influencer, right? I remember sharing that with you. We're influencers, girl. Step into it. Which isn't something we're used to as Gen X. We are very private. Our lives, we don't put on social media. No. But there's so many testimonies that I can share that now I recognize will help other people. Yeah. And so I want to be able to do that and become more vulnerable and share parts of who I am. I've gone through a spiritual awakening, and I can say with certainty, last week, calling my parents, I ain't got time. Okay, my parents will drive me crazy. I share.
The elders are busy.
I share their social media posts because people are like, "This your mama? This your daddy?" Because sometimes it takes a lot for me to deal with who my parents are, but through the spiritual awakening, bro, I can call my father. I can call and say, listen, it took me some time, but I'm excited for this new phase that we can get to know each other for who we are today. Right. There was a period where I was angry about who you weren't for me, the absentee and all of those things. But while those things built the TJ today, I'm not angry about them anymore. Right. There was a period where I felt neglected. There was a period where I felt like I wasn't getting enough, and so I wasn't enough. But today, no more. I'm excited about this journey.
I love that for you.
49.
I love that. Because it takes a lot of maturity, number one, and self-growth to look at our parents as individuals. I joke and call mines the elders. I even call my mother Sister Gresham because she, is one of them mothers of the church.
Sister Gresham.
One of them messy deaconesses, who just buzzing around. So I just jokefully call her Sister Gresham. But I also can respect their individualism of, who they are and dreams that have maybe been lost and dreams that have come true. And I'm grateful my parents are still married, but even that relationship after 50 years, those challenges. And so, you're able to provide some empathy. Like, as the older I get, I
Yes.
understand that, like, shit is not perfect. And we
Yes.
do the best whether we want to or not. And like you said, although you have some of that hurt and disappointment, at 72 and 74, like, go on ahead and live your best life. You know,
Right.
my dad, my younger brother was like, hey, you need to talk to them about this and that. I ain't talking to them about nothing. They do whatever the hell they want to do over
Right.
there. I'm not
What it's gonna do?
regulating.
What it's gonna do?
Yeah, I'm not regulating nothing. He wants to hit the dispensary. Let me get my
Right,
keys. Let me
right,
take you over there. If
right.
that's what you want to do. Like, I'm not regulating their 70s and their 80s. A, they don't fucking listen, and then B, you end up, you're always their child. So
Yes.
there's a lack of, like, they're not going to explain to you, what's going on. And if you're privileged to have a parent who will take accountability, then, like, God bless you. But mine's they not about that life.
I think for my parents, I feel like I was the parent often, right? And so sometimes it got so heavy that I just kind of had to put them on the shelf. I'll deal with you when I can. And they were the type of parents that they didn't see what they had done to me. They just saw the absence, right? And they're like, why aren't you talking to me? Why aren't you calling me? Yeah. My father would send me a Facebook message and say, you need to call me. And it's like, sir, you could have called me instead of sending that, right? And so it took some time for me to really just heal through that and understand, number one, they didn't have the tools and the resources to be perfect parents, right? And the things that they did or didn't do for me, to me, it also created the parent I became. And so I share with my children, there's some healing that they are due, right? Because of the type of parent I was, struggling as a young mother and married young, but it's okay. What I am grateful for is that my kids see me for the love I have in me, right? They never expected me to be perfect. My son sent me a message and, like, I cried because he was like, you did all these things with us with a little bit of nothing. Right? The love you had for us, you continue to struggle through. And that meant the world for me.
Absolutely. I think also, and I could be biased, but I feel like, being a Leo, we come with those tools, though, too. Like, we're natural leaders. We're natural, like, let's make it happen type people. We have thick skin because we're leaders. So you can't make a decision. Give me a minute. Let me figure it out. And you know what? It may not be the right decision, but we're going to own this shit. And this the direction, like, we're moving into.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
We're resourceful, we bring the energy and we attract folks who, I always say that, God always brings me people that want to help. But I also think it's our energy when we go into that space. And although we can be a little bitchy, people, who know us, they know that we'll give you our last dollar, my last shirt. You need something, I got it. I'm going to give it to you. So I feel like in a lot of those instances, I love astrology. I love Western astrology. Some of those water signs, I love them to death, but they be in their feelings. I don't have time to be in my little feelings as a fire sign. We're trying to, like, move it through. And that could be toxic. It could be a toxic trait that we maybe don't sit in that space of vulnerability a lot. But, my water signs and those earth signs, they can ground a little faster than we can. We're just like, get it done, get it done, get it done.
I don't know. I feel like, I operate in a space that's not very emotional, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's times where I can be emotional.
Right.
But even during the times where I'm emotional, I won't make decisions. Like, it's not the same space. Like, I don't make decisions in an emotional space because I don't feel like I'm rational. And so for somehow, some way, I can compartmentalize the two, right? If I need to be emotional, I'm going to put that to the back burner and I'm going to make thoughtful decisions first, and then I'll go and retreat and be emotional. But I feel like that's something we're also taught. Like, we have to be very strong. We have to be very nurturing. We're always the go-to, the resource. And so I think that's important. I have been a person that has been hurt a lot. And what I found for me is I don't forgive very often.
Nope.
And so this year I want to be better about being more forgiving and being more graceful. And it was very eye-opening. I remember thinking back about a week ago, I was sitting in my backyard, which I call the oasis, just enjoying nature. And I thought to myself, you know what? My cousins and my aunt, they toxic as fuck. You know, they fight. You know, they be brawling. Like I remember my cousin, you know, giving my aunt hitting her in the eye, and she had to go to the hospital and she couldn't see. And what I remembered most in that moment is through all of that toxicity, they would come back. Right? They would always still come back and still have these relationships where they were there for each other. And I thought to myself, damn, you know, people hurt me and I don't forgive easy. Like I have a very difficult time, even with my own parents, if they have hurt me. If somebody has done something to me, in the past, that's the old me, didn't really give a lot of grace, didn't learn to forgive, to let it go, to come back and have the relationship. And it wasn't until I thought about my aunt and my cousins that they do that. They fight and they come back, and they fight and they come back. And at first I was like, that's toxic as fuck. And I was like, wait, but they have each other.
Yeah.
Right? And at the same time, I don't even deal with my parents because I can't deal with that level of toxicity. So which one is healthier? Is it healthier to forgive and be able to have that space and give that grace, right? Or is it better to, you know, to just say, I can't deal with you right now? And that's something I struggle through.
Well, I think it's both. I think that there are people that you have to move on from. I think everybody is entitled to forgiveness and everybody is entitled to grace, right? Like, you know, spiritually, biblically, you know, God forgives us. We should be able to forgive people. So I think, you know, I do my best to forgive, but my toxic trait is you probably don't even know I'm not fooling with you no
Right,
more.
I'm not fucking with you.
You know what I mean? Like, I done forgave you. I'm not losing any sleep over it.
But
I
ain't
done
fucking
moved
with
on,
you.
but
That's
I'm
a
probably
Leo
not fucking with
thing.
you anymore. And I'm probably, like, you probably don't even know that you've been cut out of my circle of trust.
I think you think they don't know, but I think that we are such like fire signs. They know, right? We may not say it, Shatema, to be honest with you, but like we'll even say hello.
Yeah,
but that
we're gonna
energy's
be cordial.
different, right? But the energy ain't the same
we
as
moved accordingly. Like
that's
you
right.
showed me who you are.
I'm moving,
and I done
accordingly.
moved on. I can still be in the same place with you. I may be even able to hang out with you. You know, I have a friend that I've traveled with. I love her to death, but we just don't travel well. And I've told myself I'm not traveling with her anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't. You know, I don't. And it probably wasn't even all her fault. I'm sure I participated in the toxicity of that time of not, you know, sometimes I think as Leos we're people pleasers.
Yeah.
And so we don't necessarily tell people like, I don't do this or I don't do that. Like I don't smoke. So you having to wake up to smoke, we can't go eat until you smoke. Like, girl, that don't work for me. So, you know, but she don't know that because I've never told that person. You know, the fact that you're telling me I gotta wait until we gotta go outside for you to smoke before we can go eat is like a problem. So I know that I participated
in aiding that.
So, but I
think I'm different because as the person I am, I'm not doing it, right?
Yeah.
If you need to, like if we're on a vacation and I want to go to brunch and you got to smoke I'm going to brunch. I'll see you when you get there, right? Like I'm that Leo. You already know that, right?
Yeah.
My face goes.
And I'm like, okay, what you need? I'm going to go out there and talk to you. I'm going to take the secondhand smoke, even though I don't do it. And then I'm going to leave. But internally, I'm like, girl, roll it up and let's go. Like, how many more puffs do you need before we go eat? What I will be
is very considerate in spaces, more so than most people. Meaning, like, I won't necessarily say how I'm feeling or what I'm needing. If there's a group of us, I'll just roll with the flow or I'll leave, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm quick to be that Irish goodbye. If y'all haven't noticed, TJ will be at a party, and before you know it, TJ's gone.
Yeah.
Because I'm considerate
you
enough
drove
to
by
know.
yourself.
That's right.
So you can leave. I'm always like, nope, I'll drive. I'll meet you there.
I drove by myself because I don't necessarily, like, I'm a loner in that way. Like, I can go and come as me. Like, I don't need need a group of us. And
Yeah.
so I will Irish goodbye a party in a
Me
heartbeat.
too.
And people be like, oh, where'd she go? I didn't even know she's gone.
That's that Leo, though. We make our entrance and then we out.
Yeah, and we out. We out. And you ain't
We
gotta know. And so she's right. We are a lot of times wallflowers, even though people think we do too much, we're extra. I would actually prefer to just be a wallflower. But a lot of times, because I'm a colorful
I was going to say, because you're looking extra.
Right?
You're not
Because I'm
necessarily
looking
that
extra.
stereotypical
I can't
head
be
down.
quiet.
You're
I
probably
can't be
over there all bedazzled
Yeah.
and bunch of colors.
Yeah.
And, when they come in, people notice you. But we really, I think that's the misconception. And we talked about that in, the other episode that, people think we're extra. And to an extent, if you, took a picture of us, you're going to see something extra that isn't what somebody would normally gravitate to, but that we're actually very introvert.
Yeah, very introvert. Ambivert is what it's called. I prefer to be, just me, engaging with me and learning and more about me. And so one of the things I also wanted to talk about was what has built our resilience, right? Like some of the things that have made us strong, right? And we have a tendency to show up like Leos, roar, right? But what people forget is that, oh my God, the soft side, like
so
I can be a
soft.
very much crybaby often, more
Absolutely.
often than not.
Yes.
One of the deepest, most richest things that I have to share about me is oftentimes as a kid, I was raped over and over and over by a family member, right? It's not something we talk about often in the Black community, but it has happened to so many of my friends and close family members. And most times we were raped and molested by people that were close to us, right? There was a deep healing that I went through. The first thing I remember is the person that did this to me. I remember when they started to look like they were going to die, right? And the first thing I said to myself, you're not going to die having done what you had done to me, right? And not having to have faced it and having to allow me the space to heal. This is who I am, right? I will take those things that have hurt me deep to the core and I will put them out and say, let's talk about them. And most people don't want to do that. They don't want to be accountable. But that experience for me was deep. Like it was rich healing. It was my uncle, and he was able to say, you know what? I appreciate you for bringing this to light, for me being able to talk about it, because he had been hurt. He had been a victim. He had been somebody who also was abused and never had a chance to talk about it, never had a chance to say what had happened even to him. And so long story short, I wrote him a letter. He called me. We talked about it, and I knew he was going to die. And I wanted to talk before that happened. And shortly after our conversation, he did pass away. The healing I experienced, which is more important than what I want to share with people, it was rich, right? I can talk about this experience today, knowing that I was able to not only speak to other people about it, but I put together his funeral. I spoke about the character he was. Him and my mother were still best friends, even after he had done this to me. And so I was able to forgive him, which was rich. To me, that was the deepest, most important thing, because imagine had he died, had I not talked about it, had I not been able to express the deep hurt and pain, who would I be today? Who would I be today?
Well, that was heavy. And so I want to first say, I want to commend you for even being in this space of being able to even speak to that. I know that you've talked about being healed from that and the peace that has come, the richness of that. That's a lot. That's a lot to carry. That's, to share. I know, as a fellow Leo, we're very private about the things that are private. I am very transparent about a lot of things. I talk about, pretty openly about a lot of things, but the things that are private to me, we're very private about those things. And I would imagine that that's something that you kept very, very private. So I want to just commend you for even, being vulnerable enough to have those conversations, because to even speak on that. And I think, you know, the lesson learned, we started this podcast talking, you said you have a hard time forgiving, and then you give an example of something that I'm going to tell you, I do hold grudges. I try not to let those grudges, you know, interrupt how I deal with people, but I know that they do. That would be one that would be really difficult. I had not similar, but I understand, like, maybe feeling being abused and mistreated, and then having to, what I would say, vibrate higher and take care of, you know, business that needed to be done, the funeral, and having to do that. But I also remember doing that and not being acknowledged, not anyone acknowledging the fact that I was mistreated by this person. Part. And now you're asking me to go above and beyond and not acknowledge that, although in this death, which was traumatic, I was still mistreated. And there was no one there to acknowledge that, even though it was widespread and people knew that things had happened, right? Even if it was, you know, not to that extent, but the disrespect. And but now I'm being asked to vibrate higher and do the right thing, and the willpower that comes with that.
So the interesting part is, even in that time, nobody asked me, right? Nobody asked me to put together the funeral and put out the announcement. But at the time, I was the only person capable.
Who could do it?
I was the only person capable. Right?
So the expectation was, you weren't asked, but the expectation was for you to get it done.
But I also did it because when we wrote these letters, my family was like shocked, right? Some of them didn't know, some of them knew. But I sent the letter in before the letter got to my uncle who lived out of state. One of my other uncles called and said, hey, this letter coming to you, they being messy, you know, so there was a lot of
drama.
Yes, chaos even behind it. None of that mattered to me. What mattered most was that I was able to clear my heart.
For you.
Yes. And say what you had done to me, and that no more. It wasn't going to hold me back. It wasn't going to be who I am. I wasn't going to feel like I was the reason this happened to me. My aunt was courageous enough to take us to have therapy, but my mom was like, oh, that couldn't happen. You know, her and my uncle was still best friends. So can you imagine, after I shared this with them as a kid, my mom still being best friends with this person?
I can't.
Right? And so there was a lot of healing that I owed to myself. And I wasn't going to let him pass away and not speak to those things. And so once he did, and once he told me his why, and that he had been a victim, and that honestly, my uncle wasn't a bad person. You know, I could let those things go. I could be who I was, still plan his service, still have everybody come. And now I can move on. Like, I can talk about it, but I don't think it's a thing that's talked about enough. Right.
Agreed.
In our community.
It's an uncomfortable conversation. So that's why I said I commend you for that. I commend you for even being mature enough to see it from a different perspective, because you could be running around, you know, still hate. And that eats you up. And ultimately, you know, our healing is for ourselves. It's our relationship with God. God, you know, he deals with people the way that he deals with people. And I'm always, you know, always blessed to see when someone has mistreated me or hurt me for whatever reason. God shows me, I done dealt with it. There's some repercussions for messing with you. There's some repercussions for doing these things. And it'd be random. Sometimes things happen. And I know when I see it and I hear that little voice, like, hey, I'm watching, I'm overseeing. Nothing happens on this earth without me, you know, condoning that. But I'm also just. And I know that this happened, or I know that this happened, but I want you to see that because of those choices that person's made, their life was not fruitful. They didn't, you know, meet the promised land. They didn't receive all the blessings, because, you know, people are blessed coming and going. Everyone is. So that person, there's some wins that he had, but he didn't get the fulfillment of that because of choices that were made. So I'm always grateful, you know, when God shows me that, you know, that mistreatment, that abuse, you know, that person being messy, that didn't just fall on deaf ears. But the Leo in me, the ego in me, sometimes needs the acknowledgement. I think, you know, that's one of our toxic traits as a Leo, that we want acknowledgement for our efforts,
Yeah.
and regardless of what those, are. And I know, like, sometimes in the workspace, that has always been like, but did you see what I did? You know what I mean? That's my ego. Did you see what I did? Like, hey, we took care of that. We handled that. And there was no acknowledgement of this effort that went into
Yeah.
play.
I think the most important thing and what I will ask the audience to take away is if you were a victim, there was nothing you had done wrong. Chances are that person has gone through their own hurts. And what I encourage you to do is dig deep. That isn't who you are. Those things that happen to you, it builds your resistance in your character. And so today, I am grateful to say I am healed from those experiences. I can talk about them today. I can hopefully pour into somebody else that these things have happened to, including my kids. I was overprotective of my kids and ensuring
Absolutely.
these things didn't happen to them. So this has been a wonderful episode. I appreciate you all tapping in, getting a chance to know Shatema and I a little bit deeper and a little bit more on a personal level. I want to give a shout out and thank you to the Black HR Society for making a meaningful difference in the lives of Black HR professionals, myself included. This circle has been wonderful for me, for my healing, for my journey. And so you can find us on Black HR Society on IG and on other social platforms. We are at the Black HR Society. Shatema, where can we find you on social, girl?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, happy birthday,
Yay!
July 31st.
31st. One time for the birthday, bitch.
I'm a July 29. Shout out to all the Leos out there. I can be found on all social media under Procure Talent Management Group. We are an HR consulting firm that specializes in talent management, so how you attract, retain, develop, and hire your employees. So check us out.
Yes, this has been a great episode. Just getting a chance to know us a little bit deeper. If you're looking for some coaching or even resume review, we forgot to talk about that, but you can certainly have your resume reviewed by the Black HR Society. Send it over. Ask HR at the Black HR Society. That first initial resume review is free. So we want to help you in your career journey. So please reach out to us. If you want to be a guest on the show, a sponsor, you can certainly email me, tj@wewannatotalkaboutit.com, because we want to talk about it with you. We appreciate you for joining in. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. And until next time, be good. Bye-bye.
See ya.